The bitter wind cut through the alleyway like a blade, carrying with it the scent of rain and refuse. Riza pulled his threadbare jacket tighter around his thin frame, his breath forming small clouds in the frigid air. At 15, he had learned that the city's forgotten corners were the safest places for someone like him. Invisible, unwanted, surviving on scraps and kindness that rarely came. As he turned the corner behind the old electronics store, searching for a dry place to spend the night, he stopped dead in his tracks. There, collapsed against a stack of rotting cardboard boxes, was something he had never seen before. The creature was roughly humanoid, but clearly not human. Its skin held an iridescent quality that shifted between deep purple and silver under the flickering streetlight. 4 arms hung limply at its sides, and its elongated head bore features that were both alien and strangely beautiful. Most alarming of all was the dark fluid, presumably blood, that pooled beneath its body. Riza's first instinct was to run. Every survival lesson he had learned on the street screamed at him to walk away, to mind his own business. But something in the creature's labored breathing, in the way its large golden eyes tracked his movement with desperate hope, made him pause. "Hey," Riza whispered, approaching slowly. You okay?" The alien's mouth moved, producing sounds that were musical yet incomprehensible, but its eyes, those eyes held an intelligence that transcended language barriers. They spoke of pain, of fear, and of a profound gratitude that someone had bothered to stop. Riza looked around the empty alley, then back at the dying creature. He had so little to offer. His stomach hadn't seen a full meal in 3 days. His shoes had holes that let in the cold. And his most precious possession was the thin blanket he had found weeks ago, the only thing that stood between him and freezing to death on winter nights. The alien coughed, a sound like wind chimes in a storm, and more of the dark fluid escaped its lips. Its breathing was becoming shallower. Without another thought, Riza unwrapped his blanket from around his shoulders. The cold immediately bit into his skin, but he ignored it as he knelt beside the creature and carefully draped the worn fabric over its trembling form. "There," he said softly, adjusting the blanket to cover as much of the alien as possible. That's all I got, but maybe it'll help." The creature's golden eyes widened, and it lifted one of its 4 hands with obvious effort. Its fingers, long and delicate, ending in what looked like natural jewelry, briefly touched Riza's face. The touch was warm, and for a moment the boy could have sworn he felt something pass between them. Understanding, perhaps, recognition. Then the alien's hand fell back, its eyes closed, and its breathing stopped. Riza sat back on his heels, suddenly feeling the full weight of what he had done. His blanket, his lifeline, now covered a dead alien in a forgotten alley. He would freeze tonight. Maybe he wouldn't survive until morning, but as he looked at the peaceful expression on the creature's face, he found he didn't regret his choice. He spent that night huddled in a doorway 6 blocks away, shivering uncontrollably as the temperature dropped below freezing. Every few minutes he would think about going back for his blanket, but something stopped him. It felt wrong to disturb whatever dignity he had managed to give the creature in its final moments. Dawn came gray and unwelcoming. Riza's joints ached from the cold, and his lips had taken on a blue tinge that worried him. He was contemplating whether he had enough strength to search for food when he heard it, a sound like thunder but constant and growing louder. He looked up to see ships descending from the clouds. Not human ships, these were sleek, organic-looking vessels that seemed to flow rather than fly. They filled the sky above the city, casting shadows over the awakening streets. Panic began to spread among the early morning commuters, but the ships made no aggressive moves. Instead, they simply hovered as if waiting. Then came the ground forces. They appeared in flashes of silver light, tall figures in armor that gleamed like liquid mercury. Riza counted them as they materialized in perfect formation down the main street. 50, 100, 150, 200. Each one stood over 7 feet tall, carrying weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. The lead warrior, distinguished by the intricate patterns carved into its armor, stepped forward and spoke in a voice that somehow reached every ear in the city, despite not being shouted. "People of Earth," it said, the words carried by technology that translated perfectly into every language. "We are the Kethar Honor Guard. Last night, one of your kind showed mercy to our fallen princess, Anaiseth, daughter of the imperial house. This human child, this Riza, gave his only protection against your world's killing cold to comfort her dying moments. The warrior's helmet retracted, revealing features similar to the alien Riza had found, but sharper, more regal. In our culture, such an act of selfless compassion creates a debt that can only be repaid with blood or protection. We choose protection. Another flash of light, and suddenly Riza found himself standing in the center of the formation, no longer in his ragged clothes, but wearing a simple, clean outfit that fit perfectly. His stomach, empty for so long, felt satisfied. His body, weak from cold and hunger, thrummed with new strength. "Riza of Earth," the commander continued, "you showed our princess the respect and kindness that her own people failed to provide in time. From this day forward, you are under the protection of the Kethar Empire. No harm shall come to you, and no want shall touch you." The commander turned to address the gathered crowd of humans who had emerged from buildings and vehicles, their faces a mixture of fear and wonder. "Your world has produced at least one soul of pure compassion. For this reason, Earth shall be welcomed into our galactic community not as conquered subjects, but as honored allies. The mercy shown by one child has saved your entire species from a war you could not win and granted you a friendship you could never have earned through strength alone." As the ships began to rise, back into the clouds, carrying news of this unprecedented alliance to the stars, Riza found himself holding a small device that translated the final words of Princess Anaseth, recorded in her dying moments. "Tell the kind human child that his blanket was the first warmth I felt in my final hour. Tell him that mercy is the rarest and most powerful force in the universe. Tell him that he has the grateful love of a dying princess and the eternal protection of her people." In the days that followed, as humanity took its first steps into a larger universe, historians would call it the Blanket Accord, the moment when a homeless boy's simple act of kindness changed the fate of two species forever. They would speak of advanced technology, of trade agreements and cultural exchanges, of the dawn of a new age, but Riza would always remember it differently. He would remember golden eyes filled with gratitude, the weight of a decision made without thought of reward, and the simple truth that sometimes the smallest acts of compassion echo across the cosmos, louder than any weapon of war. In the end, humanity's greatest strength had never been their technology or their armies. It had been their capacity to see suffering and choose to ease it, even at great cost to themselves. And in a universe often cold and unforgiving, that warmth, that fundamental human decency had proven to be their salvation.